Welcome to Bourbon and Branches and No BS, coming to you from beautiful downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia, in the center of town. And the host of your podcast, Susie Woolham.
Welcome.
Hi.
I am so excited that you are here with me today.
I'm excited too because we are talking about a very important topic, and I'm excited also for our beverage choice at the end, which we always have.
We do have good beverage choices, don't we?
We do, and I feel like every single time you surprise us with something that somehow ties into our subject matter, which is fantastic.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But the reason I'm excited you're here today is because we are talking about your absolute favorite subject on the planet.
Yes.
Food.
I love food.
You do love food.
Yeah.
I love food. Food is a good thing. But
is a
you
great
are
thing.
like me, and you are a food person. You want your food. You need your food. Don't get in between you and your food.
Yeah,
it
no.
doesn't end well.
It doesn't end well. And before we get going on this, I do want to say, Susie, that we're very excited that so many fantastic people came out to our launch party for the podcast. We've had such a great time spreading the news about this podcast, and we want people to share it with people that they know and love and give this information to anyone that they can.
Absolutely. And it's been really wonderful for me. So many of you have reached out to me either through email or on social media, and you've had such great questions and compliments. The only thing I can ask is if you feel comfortable, I would love if you would share those questions through the comments section so that other people can see them too. I've answered everyone privately, and that makes it really, really nice because you know that you can speak to me in a private fashion. But if you feel comfortable, if you could share them through the comments so that other people, I think, could really benefit from some of the questions that we've had come up over the episodes that we've put up so far.
Yeah, that's a really good point because a lot of people will have very similar questions about CBD oil or, how to use an essential oil or that
how
sort
to
of thing.
stock their bar. I mean, their medicine cabinet.
Right.
That's a big one. That was a big
huge one.
question.
Yes, it was a huge question. So, yeah, that's a great idea. And certainly share the podcast with everyone you know. Now, we are talking on this episode about getting prepared, and we're getting into the pantry for this.
We are getting into the pantry, and one of the things that I tell people most often is I may not know very much in life, but I do know food. And when it comes to food, I can lead you in a good direction as far as food goes. But ever since I was a very young child, I had a grandmother who owned a store in Pikeville, Kentucky, Edith Martin's Grocery. Shout out, hey.
Hey.
Long since gone. But every time we would go and visit, she would always send us home with cases of food, cases and cases of canned goods and jellies and jams and, believe it or not, Spam. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
Yes.
So ever since I was a very young child, there's always been food in our house. And if we had a storm or if the power went out or in times of financial hardship, we always had food. And I realized that as society has changed, we no longer have that family pantry. People's schedules are busy. They work and they are running by the store to pick up what they need on the way home. They're not really thinking about what might happen next week or next month or next year or tomorrow, for that matter. People tend to shop day to day. And getting away from that family pantry has really put society in a really difficult spot, as we saw back at the beginning of this year when we had our government shutdown.
Right.
And suddenly people had no food. And this baffles me. I don't understand that mentality. Just being who I am and just the way that I was raised, I'm certainly not judging anybody. I just don't understand that mentality of not having food in your house.
Right.
So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how can we be prepared for a situation that arises that, frankly, you can't be prepared for. We're not talking
Zombie apocalypse.
We're not talking major prepping.
Yes.
Although if that's something that you're interested in, this is still a great place to start. The biggest problem that people, I think, have is, where do I start? I don't even know.
Right.
I don't even know anything about this. What should I have? What should I do? What shouldn't I do?
Right. And then a lot of people are asking questions around this about, like, how long does something last if I keep it for years?
Right.
And, that sort of thing. It's really important to kind of get down to the bottom of just knowing what you can keep for a long time.
Right. So if I were to ask you right now, we live in a town that has a major railroad that runs through it. So barring any unforeseen difficulties with weather or anything else, what if there were an emergency with that railroad? How long could you stay in your house and feed your family?
Good question.
So for me, for my family, and we have included a couple of other people that are close by that we know are, as I like to say, like a baby bird. They will really appreciate me saying that. But we know that at this moment, should something happen, weather-related or otherwise, I have enough food in my house for 4 people for at least 90 days.
Okay.
Without hesitation. And that's 3 meals a day and snacks. Because, as you know,
it's all about the snacks.
I am, in fact,
Yes.
all about the snacks.
Of course.
I do love a good snack.
Who
It's
doesn't?
important.
Come on.
So what I hope to kind of leave everybody with today are just a few really basic ground rules to help them get started in where they're going, or maybe to at least think differently about what they have. So
we're going to look at time-wise, minimum of 3 months, you said?
I'd like for everybody to have at least 3 months of food in their house.
Right.
I realize that may not be realistic for everyone. At the absolute bottom minimum, you need to have enough food in your house for every person for 3 meals, food and water and supplies for 72 hours.
Okay.
You can, I'm sure, remember 4 or 5 years ago, we had a huge storm come through, and none of us in Fredericksburg had power for, some of us for a week, some of us for 3 days.
Right.
This would have allowed them to continue eating, going to the bathroom, having water, without having to drive 30 miles to a gas station so that they could buy food, so that they could buy gas to drive the 30 miles back home.
Right.
They're safe, they're sheltered in their homes, they can take care of what they need to, and life goes on.
Right. And I'm thinking about
uninterrupted.
some of the weather situations that have been across the nation here recently, but you have a weather situation like that, whether it be in the winter, in the summer, you have a tornado come through your town or whatever, you could be in a situation for weeks.
Absolutely. And that's why we need to look at this from not a zombie apocalypse status, but from an everyday status. What do I need to function every day?
Right.
And we do a class here that kind of takes it into a little more in depth, where I talk to people about prescription medications and toiletries and other things like that. But right now, what I'm trying to do is just get you through what the government was shut down for close to a month. So something that could help you and your family survive for a month without breaking the bank. Because I realize it seems daunting. Just grocery shopping day in and day out seems daunting, and having to run to 20 different stores is difficult for a parent with 3 kids and a husband and a full-time job. So I'm trying to make it in a much easier fashion where you kind of see that, again, we're trying to eat that elephant, just taking it one bite at a time.
Right, absolutely. So how do we get started? What's the first thing we should do?
The absolute first thing that you should do is educate yourself. Either take a class on it. 2 websites that I absolutely recommend that are so great for just getting started. Ready.gov, which is the one that is run by the federal government, and it is for specifically weather-related type situations where you would need 72 hours worth of food or water. But they also give you a really good set of parameters for setting up an emergency bag or a bug-out bag, whatever you choose to call it, for your car. So if you're at work and there's a storm, I realize you don't work very far from your home, but
a lot of people do.
In a storm, that's a long way to walk.
Well, and years ago when we had a hurricane and I was living in a different area, and I did live a little bit away from the job, I was stuck for hours and hours because the road shut down in the midst of everyone trying to get home. And hours. I mean, we were all there A lot of people
No
didn't have a
food,
snack
no water,
in the car.
no
or-
snacks.
yeah.
Right. No snacks.
Yeah.
Never find yourself, ladies and gentlemen, never find yourself in a situation
Public
with
service
no,
announcement.
with no snacks.
Right.
Like, sweetie, how do you get yourself in these situations? Don't do this. This is not.
This is not okay.
This is not okay. This Susie law, number one.
But it's
never
true, though,
find yourself without a snack.
Because you could be in the car, even,
could.
not just in your house, but in the car for hours, stuck somewhere.
Absolutely. There's always a bag in my car. I live less than 2 miles from where I work. In my car, I keep an extra pair of shoes. I keep a bandana that can be used as a face mask if I need to. I keep a hat. I keep a rain poncho. I keep a little meal pack that, even though I only have to go a short distance, it has some protein in there. It has some nuts. It has water, a bottle of water in there. Because what if I run out of here and need water between here and there? I carry an extra knife with me at all times, because what if there's something I need to cut between here and there,
Sure.
a branch or something that's across the road, or if I get hung up in something. It's just a basic kit, even though I live super close, and I know people think that that's probably overreactive, but
You feel ready.
I always have it with me.
Yeah.
So ready.gov is wonderful. The other one that I really like is through the Church of Latter-day Saints, and it's called providentliving.org. Provident Living is wonderful, and if you look at the Church of the Latter-day Saints and what they're doing, their ideology is that you should always have 1 year of food for every person in your household on standby. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today, whether you're a member of the church or not, these ideas, these shopping tips, these planning grids are available to you, and you really should take advantage of them. They do a wonderful website. We're going to talk about them a little bit more in just a little bit as we move through the rules, but they give you a really, really good, either one of these sites will give you a really good idea, and some things that I'm not discussing today simply because time limitations, as far as having an emergency plan for your family, even for a fire in your house, where you all are going to meet, or different things like that. So both of them are really, really good places to start. The other thing we need to look at, and this is the ugly word, I know for a lot of people, but we're going to talk about budget. So it's a lot of money, right? With a family of 4 to feed them, that's several $1,000s a year.
Right.
And I realize that people don't have that. But what if I said that by taking $5 a month, so we're talking $55, $60 a year, you might bump it to $100 a year if you're feeling really generous with yourself, you can set aside a very, very healthy, happy, comfortable pantry that will last your family for several weeks. And it's not challenging.
Mm-hmm.
We can look at things like, for instance, there's a big box store not too far from here that has 8 cans of tuna for $5.10.
Right.
Well, there's 8 meals.
Right.
I mean, that's 8 meals for a family.
Right.
And it's something that you probably eat. And that's something else that we need to talk about is number 3 rule, only store what you eat.
Ooh,
Don't buy food just because it's on sale.
Right.
If your family, a lot of these sites and a lot of these sort of being prepared sort of organizations will talk to you about buying red or white wheat, because it has a wonderful shelf life and you can turn it into 1,000 things. You can eat it like it is. You can eat it like a cereal. You can grind it yourself and make wheat and make bread. If you are not a wheat eater, trust me, do not buy 50 pounds of red wheat, because it's going to go bad and
Right.
you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
But white rice, oatmeal. Everybody in the world eats oatmeal. If you don't eat oatmeal, don't buy oatmeal. White rice. Why white rice over brown? As a general rule, my family eats brown rice all the time. We don't eat white rice. I store white rice. Brown rice is an oily rice, and it has a very short shelf life, even when vacuum sealed. White rice does not. That being said, if you have a handy-dandy dehydrator, you can cook the brown rice and then dehydrate it. Now you have instant brown rice, and that's fine. That will
wow.
last. And in vacuum sealing, using an oxygen absorber, some of these things will last upwards of 10 years. So it's not like we're going to buy it and it's going to go bad, as long as we're taking care of it appropriately, and that comes later. Canned foods, when the stores do their 10 cans for $1, buy 10 cans of something, but only buy things you eat. If you don't like canned corn, don't buy canned corn.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you are like my children and refuse to eat peas of any kind, canned peas are probably not a good purchase.
Yes.
Because even in an emergency, they are not, I promise you, going to like peas.
Right. Unless they've been starving for days.
And they're still not going to like
maybe
peas.
not even then.
And they're going to hate you then.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Right.
But buy the things that you would normally eat. Some of the membership clubs, big box stores, are great places to buy large quantities of things like oatmeal and rice. And, once you go there, we're looking at tuna, and we're looking at, even coffee creamer as a substitute for milk in cereal when you're in an emergency state. Trust me, they won't know the difference, and it'll last forever because, it's coffee creamer.
Exactly.
So there's that.
So there's that.
The other thing that you need to do is store it properly. I see a lot of people who come and take my classes, and they want to learn to do these things, and I applaud them for doing that. And they go out and they buy a 20-pound bag of rice, and they buy a 30-pound bag of oatmeal, and they take them home and they leave them in the package that they're in. And I promise you that's not going to last. So you are going to have to repackage them. There are a couple different ways that you can do this. Hopefully you have been blessed by a vacuum sealer and a dehydrator, as I have. If you have not, hopefully you have a friend who has been blessed with a dehydrator and a vacuum sealer. If not, I think that these are absolutely good things to invest in if there's something that you think you're going to use for a long time. They're the kind of things that you could buy and share amongst a couple different families. I have personally... We're delving into the secret part of Susie. I have this very deep-seated need to own a freeze dryer.
Yes.
And someday I will. And I will own it, and I want to have it here at the shop so that everyone can use it, so that we can share it as a community, because I think that it would make such a huge difference if people could just freeze dry their own food.
Right.
But as it stands right now, I don't. But someday...
It'll happen.
It's a dream. It's
Yes.
on my dream list.
It's on the goal list.
But there are things that need to be done when you buy foods in bulk to repackage them. One of the least expensive ways to do it, honestly, is with oxygen absorbers. You can buy them online. Mason jars, you can buy them online. You can buy them at big box stores. So taking rice, for an example, I will take a 10-pound bag of rice, and I will divide it up into 1-gallon jars, put oxygen absorbers in with it, put the mason jar lid onto it, and it will vacuum seal it shut. I also have a vacuum sealer, but I do that first. But still, and I know that there's no air getting in, no bugs are getting in, and it's safe, it's good. My family has food. As long as I keep it in a temperate zone, I'm looking at 5 or 6 years without any trouble.
Right.
So it's a nice thing to know.
And that goes a long ways, too.
It does go a long way. And it's not just because of a weather emergency. What if you lost your job?
Yeah.
I mean, they keep picking on you because you're right here.
Here I am.
But if you lost your job tomorrow, could you feed your family?
Right.
And people don't think about that. They think they'll use their credit cards, or they think that they will, whatever it is that they think that they're going to do. And then suddenly there's no money to pay for the credit card, or the power's out, like when we had and there's not a bank within 50 miles of us that has any power. Well, that piece of plastic is useless for anything.
Right. And the stores are not, they're running out of things in those scenarios.
Right.
Or,
and they want cash, and that's it to get you out the door.
And you look at the job situation and you think, what if you did lose your job or anything like that? I mean, to think how much better off you would be for a few months not having to try
just
to
because you
scrape for that.
have food.
Yeah.
You can feed your family, and it's a comfort thing. And as a parent, it's always something that we look at, that if there isn't enough food, we all had good Southern mothers, at least in this room, who food was how they showed their love, and then the table was always full of every kind of food. It didn't matter if there were 10 people or 80 people, there was always enough food for 200.
Yeah.
So this is a way that you will always have something that you can build on to feed your family.
Yeah.
And they'll have enough calories, and everything will be at least hunky-dory for a while.
I remember, it's so different now. And I remember as a child, my great-grandparents had a farm, and there were days and days we would spend canning things
That's right.
and putting things in jars. And that would be something that we would do together.
Together.
You know, that would be a thing, and sit down and snap the beans together and all of that, and shuck the corn and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that was a thing. And it's not a thing now.
It's not a thing
so
now.
we do have to go out and kind of make these preparations because it's not a thing now.
And it should be a thing. Families were the entire family unit and sort of that understanding of family beyond just the people that lived in your same house, of what it extended to, of, you know, we took care of our neighbors because all the neighbors came over and helped you plow that field.
Right.
And so they were able to partake in reaping the benefits of
Right.
doing that. And that's just what we did together. And that's something about like what we're going to talk about here in a second. But the other thing that's huge is water.
Ooh, that's a big deal, yeah.
Water is a big deal. Minimally, you should have in your house 1 gallon of water per person per day. And that literally is a minimum. I know that seems daunting to people. If you live in an apartment, I realize you're already going, this lady's insane. Where am I going to put this? Well, let me just help you understand something. So just because I said a gallon doesn't mean you have to buy a gallon. There is a grocery store locally here that I buy water from in 4-gallon bottles, and it cost me $3.99 for 4 gallons of water in a water bottle that goes on like a water machine.
Oh, right, yeah.
So now, maybe I don't have a water machine at home, but I promise you, if my power's out for 3 days and I need to tap into that water, we're going to figure out a way to get the water
Absolutely.
out of that jug. They stack beautifully. I actually can send you plans for building a PVC stacking grid if you want them. You'd have to ask for them. Or I'm sure you could find them online.
By special request.
I know, by special request only. But we at all times have probably 11 or 12 of those 4-gallon bottles in our house at all time. Because you never know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, we do not have a water source at our home. If you have a water source, great. Should something happen and the power go out. We don't. So we stock more than maybe other people would.
Right.
But these bottles will stack beautifully in the back of your closet. Don't tell me they won't. Don't tell me. Don't tell me you can't fit a case of water underneath your bed or underneath your winter boots in the front hall closet. It's just, or in that cabinet that's above the refrigerator that no one uses.
No one uses that.
Right. Fill it with water.
Yeah.
Boom. Problem solved. You have water in the event of an emergency.
And what a great way to actually purchase that, because, I mean, you're like 4 gallons ahead, so you don't have to
Right.
worry. Yeah, that's
Done.
that's a great idea.
One of those bottles will serve a family of 4 for one day.
Yeah.
So buy 3 of them, and now your family's taken care of for 72 hours.
Right.
I'm sure you can find room for 3 of them,
That's
even
great.
the smallest apartment, unless you're in a tiny house, in which case
Good luck.
we'll talk. I'll figure out a way to make that
Find a
happen.
storage unit.
I will find a way to make that happen for you, I promise.
So the last thing we want to talk about in the how we get going steps is the garden swap.
Garden swaps are great. If you have a garden, you need to learn to can. If you already know how to can, look at your neighbors who don't. Maybe the woman who lives next door to you is really good at baking cakes, or maybe she only grows herbs, or maybe she does whatever. One of the things that they do in the Mormon church is that the wives will get together and they will actually do a food swap. Everyone will come in, they will prepare their best dish, they will prepare canned jars of that dish. So let's say there's 10 women. Each woman makes 10 jars. At the end of the night, they all switch off. Now they each have 10 meals to take home to their family. This is something that you could arrange with your church group or a senior group or your neighbors or pretty much anybody where, hey, I have an abundance of tomatoes this year. You have an abundance of zucchini. If you want to dry that or can it, I will do the same and we'll exchange like jars. This is just such a great way to meet your neighbors and to work together. And, you know, maybe you really hate zucchini growing it, but you like to eat it. You don't like weeding it. You don't like growing it. So pick 3 or 4 families, and one of them just grows cucumbers. One of them just grows zucchini. One just grows tomatoes. One just grows squash. And then right there you have 4 families. You could invest in a dehydrator together. You could invest in a vacuum sealer together, or do a canning party, have everybody over and switch them off. It's like a Christmas cookie exchange, only
I like that.
So much more fun.
Yeah.
Right? And you're feeding your family, and it's something new, and everybody is going to make their best dish. It's like a good Sunday in the South church dinner. Everyone's making their best dish.
I love it. So, emergency essentials and some things that we can pick up that we probably should have on hand.
So, places that I would recommend that you get started shopping online, definitely Provident Living through the Latter-day Saints Church. You can purchase in-store either by the case or individually. Online, you can only purchase by the case. Emergency Essentials is a wonderful online company. You can buy a single number 10 can through them. It's a great way to get started. Buy one can of something. You want to work this into your rotation. You want to actually use this and see if your family even would like it. You may not like freeze-dried chicken. So don't buy a case of freeze-dried chicken before you find out if you actually like it.
Right.
Look at your big box stores for your basics. And don't forget things like flashlights. I realize everyone has a flashlight in your house. I'd like to see a show of hands right now for everybody that can lay their hands on that flashlight right now. So we probably have 9 flashlights.
Yeah.
So buy flashlights in bulk, buy batteries in bulk.
It's a light show at your house.
It's a light show. Well, I have one in every room because
That's
if
good.
I'm
You
in
should.
bed
Yeah.
and the power goes out,
Exactly.
how am I going to get down the stairs?
You're right.
I'm going to end up crawling down the stairs
Like a
backwards
cat.
like a cat.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
right. It's going to be awful.
Who's going to do that?
That's right. It could happen. The struggle is real. Last thing I want to say is this. The one thing that you don't want to forget, and this is something that I see a lot of people do. You've prepared for food. You've prepared for water. Your family's set. You've got enough toilet paper to last you till the second coming. Please don't forget snacks.
Yes, right.
At Christmas time, when our local membership club has lots of different types of M&Ms, I will buy M&Ms in bulk. I bring them home and I recan them in quart jars. I vacuum seal them and I hide them throughout the year, because there's nothing like the middle of July when you just need a little something. You pop that jar open and you've got M&Ms. So please think about hard candies. Think about something that's going to be sweet and wonderful, and take a class and learn more. But understand that it is definitely a lifestyle. Understanding that you have to make a commitment to doing this. It's not going to take a lot of time, but it is a commitment, and it is, I know what you're waiting for. I see it in your face. It's a conviction.
It is a conviction.
It is
Yeah.
a conviction.
It is about getting out of the moment for a moment and getting into, let's think about what could happen
Yes.
down the road.
Wow, that was really,
That was pretty deep, wasn't it?
that was eloquent and out of the moment for a moment. I liked it. So, being as it's a conviction, and it is a conviction in my life, the bourbon that I chose for us today.
Yes.
So exciting.
Here we go.
This is so exciting. This is a relatively new bourbon. It's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. It is, as they say, the first bourbon legally made behind bars.
Ooh.
So today we are sampling Conviction Bourbon.
Wow.
Which is actually made in an old prison just north of Charlotte, North Carolina. It is made by the, God bless them, Southern Grace Distilleries. Sorry, shout out to Gotta Be a
Southern
Good
Grace.
Southern Girl. That's right. That's who it is. This is an award-winning bourbon, under $50.
Nice.
And the one that we're having today was actually bottled $424.19. It is bottle number 181 from barrel number 335. And it is a barrel proof that is 101.88 proof.
Nice.
So, you ready?
Yes.
Here's to you.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Cheers.